Hey, everybody, welcome to Ultimate Insider on Bear Insider. I am Mike Pawlawski. Today, we got a great podcast for you. There are certain players over the history of the program who have just defined an era. And you can go back and you can talk about the teams by the guys, Chuck Muncie being one of them, Aaron Rodgers, Craig Morton, Steve Bartkowski. You can go back and you can just define the era by those guys and the names. Today, we got one of those guys on the show. Well, super pumped right now. One of my favorite dudes of all time, and I always love Cal quarterbacks. It's super easy. But one of my guys from when he was there, saw him from the time he was a freshman coming in till the time he came out at the top of his game. Number one NFL draft pick. Obviously, a guy who stadiums in the NFL are now chanting his name, and one of our favorite Cal quarterbacks of all time, Jared Goff. Jared, welcome to the show, man. Great to have you here.
Awesome. This is great, man. Thank you for having me. Long overdue.
Long overdue. I appreciate you, man. And I know you got a ton of stuff going on, so taking the time, obviously, for me, for our audience, it's huge. I want to start off with a super easy question because we talked about it before when we were back in the hunting days when I did our hunting show together. But what made you choose Cal coming out of high school?
Yeah, great question. Both my parents went there. I was already kind of predisposed to being a Cal fan. So like I grew up a Cal fan. I had the Cal hat. I wore the Aaron Rodgers jersey. I wore Kevin Riley was really like when I was really like into football. Kevin Riley was the guy for me. So I had his jersey. I was way into it. And when I was coming out in high school, a little bit under recruited in the Northern Bay Area in Marin, and I got my first offer on junior day from Coach Tedford at Cal. And it was kind of like, wait, what did you say? You're going to offer me a scholarship? Oh, okay. Like it was my, the first one, you're kind of like, wait, what? And so he offered me after my junior season. And at that point, a lot of guys are already committed, during their junior season. They already know where they want to go to school. So I guess I would say I was probably at the later stage, a later bloomer in the recruiting process. And yeah, so Coach Tedford offered me. And about a week later, I had two other offers. And I think you know how it goes, and I wouldn't even know how it goes nowadays. But back then, it was like the spots fill up one at a time, and like, USC and Stanford and Washington and all sorts of schools on the West Coast that I was interested in already had guys there, and I didn't want to lose my spot at Cal, and it was kind of a perfect fit for me and close to home. My parents went there; it was just a no-brainer.
Yeah, that's fantastic. It's funny because you talk about recruiting now, and recruiting now is insane. When I was coming out, I started getting letters at the end of my junior year. So like going into my senior year, and I didn't get the offers until you couldn't even get the offers until like after the fall that year after football. So
Right.
that's pretty funny. Now guys are like Harbaugh's offering scholarships to dudes in eighth grade back when he was at Michigan.
Silly.
It's insane.
Silly.
So you get to Cal, right? What did you expect and what did you face when you got there?
Yeah, it was so different for me because I was recruited by one staff and then played for another. I was recruited and committed to Coach Tedford, and Marcus Arroyo was the main recruiter for me. He was the OC and quarterback coach, and they got let go in December of that year, and then my recruiting kind of like opened back up for like maybe a week. I was committed to Cal. Like I didn't really care who the coach was at that point. I loved Tedford, but as soon as they hired Coach Dykes and I saw it was a spread offense, I'm like, great, sign me up, I'm in. But yeah, there were some schools that came knocking when Coach Tedford was fired, but it was easy to stay committed and went there and got to play for Coach Dykes and more specifically Coach Franklin and that offense, and loved it, loved every second of it. I think it was such a great, a perfect storm of I was a freshman. I was green. I was learning, and this new staff didn't really care about stars or who was there prior, and they just made it a clean slate quarterback competition, and that's not always the case. And I was able to win it.
Yeah, it was pretty great. And I remember you coming in kind of, what did you weigh coming out of high school? 175?
Probably 180. Yeah.
Yeah, 180. So pretty
I played
slim coming out of high
I played
school.
that first game against Northwestern. I was probably maybe 183
Yeah.
as a
So
freshman.
yeah, so that's a tough way to go as a freshman coming into college. I think the only one that I think can compare to that, Troy Azine was a left tackle at Cal as a freshman playing at 242. So that was pretty light as well.
Wow.
Yeah, so
Wow.
pretty good. Your
Wow.
freshman year, you guys go 1-11.
Yeah.
What was your thinking after that season?
Yeah. I remember, I had only lost 4 games in high school, and you lose 11 in 1 year, and you're like, holy smokes. I think the greatest thing it did for me was like let me know that like, all right, this isn't easy. Like this is going to be hard. You're going to struggle, and there's going to if it's worth everything that's worth having is worth doing, whatever that saying is. It was a struggle and it was hard, but it was going to be worth it at the end. And I kind of had to put my mindset there that, whatever happened is in the past, and try to move forward and find a way to win some more games than we had the first year. And yeah, it kind of kicks you in the balls a little bit, but you learn from it, and you get up, and you dust yourself off and go back to work.
So that's one of the big things. Obviously, I wrote the book. You wrote gave me a quote for it. But it's like mindset is everything at the position. People always think about X's and O's, and it's all about plays and scheming, and that's all cool, and it works, and you need it, especially as you get higher. But really, to play the position well, it's all about mindset.
Right.
Where did that come from, and how much did your dad help you in that as a former pro athlete?
Yeah, a ton. I mean, really a ton. I think you're exactly right. Like, I've seen, and you've seen, a million guys who can throw it better than me or better than you when you were playing. It didn't matter. That's
Definitely
not
better
that's
than
not
me.
right. That's not a uh, that's not an indicator on if you're going to be a good quarterback or not. And I think the mindset thing is, I think I was born with it to some extent. I do think my dad, raised me well, and taught me what right from wrong and what matters and what doesn't matter. And certainly in sports, being able to see him be a professional athlete and then have a life after that and be a firefighter, it makes it so that, your whole life isn't wrapped up in the sport, and you're still battling that. I mean, that's kind of the battle I think we face as quarterbacks, is not letting your identity get wrapped up in your job and being a quarterback, but still being a human outside of that. And so yeah, I think that, and as well as he always just reminded me to have fun, enjoy it. I think when you play at the highest level, you're able to look at these high school kids and middle school kids and even college, and it's still just fun. It's not like a business. You just go out there and have fun, enjoy it. And I think sometimes these parents that didn't play at the highest level think that high school is the highest level, so they get all wrapped up in that. And yeah, he was able to kind of keep it in perspective for me at a young age. And then I was pretty always pretty good at just letting it roll off my back, and move with the punches.
Yeah, I love that. I get to see high school parents all the time now. I coach high school quarterbacks, coach some college guys, and get to watch how just involved they get in the moment of it, rather than letting it just be a game still, right?
Right.
Even where you're playing now. I remember I texted you before the Super Bowl, and I'm like, remember, it's still just football, right?
Right.
Like, it's still just football. That's a
Right.
big deal. I love the fact you said you were kind of born with it to some extent. You came on the show, and I talk to people about this all the time. We get in, you're learning how to shoot rifles for accuracy, kind of do your thing, and we get on the targets, and we're out there on the table just kind of shooting bench rest. And you shoot like 3 shots. One of them's off a little bit, but the next 2 are almost touching, like super solid. And immediately you look back at me like, let's go. Like, let's compete. Let's do
Yeah.
it right now.
Yeah.
Talk about that mindset as a quarterback and how important that is to have that.
Yeah, I think, yeah, in that instance in particular, I was like, all right, that's about as good as I'm gonna get. Let's go shoot them, like, let's go find some pigs and knock them down. But yeah, I think being a competitor, and just wanting a chance to like challenge yourself is something I'm always searching for. And I'm always, to be honest, pushing my coaches to be like, hey, find something to challenge me with. And I want to feel stimulated every day. I want to feel like, I've got something that may be hard to overcome, or maybe something I haven't seen before. And in year 10 now in the NFL, it becomes a little bit harder to find those things, but you try to find them every single day. Maybe it's hitting the target, in pregame warm up, in the upper right hand corner as opposed to dead center in the middle. I mean, you can find a million things. But yeah, I'm born to be a competitor in a lot of ways. And I think as you get older, and certainly in the NFL, you have to find ways to push yourself, and continue that internal competition, because in some ways it won't always be there in practice, or if you don't do it yourself.
Yeah, you start to learn, right? You get this adaptation where you're like, oh, I can do all these things. I've done them all. I trust myself. And then where's that thing that keeps pushing you too, right? Once you reach a certain level. I love that. You find it in college where you're like, okay, I'm good now, and I've learned these things, and and you're like, I'm pretty good. Like, what next? And then you get to the next level. You're like, oh, these guys are really good.
Right.
And then you kind of grow, and then you're like, oh, okay, well, what next? And
Right.
so, you talk about hitting the target. What kind of habits, what kind of things have you learned along your way that you use to kind of keep that motivation, to keep that moving, to keep improving?
Sure. Yeah, and I think, to piggyback off what you're saying there, it's a lot about like finding what the highest version of yourself is. Like, that's what you're chasing. I've heard the speech. I think Matthew McConaughey's speech when he won an Oscar, like, I'm chasing myself 10 years from now and I'll never get there, right? Like you're chasing that like better version of yourself every day, whether it's in sports or in life or whatever it may be. If you're doing that, then you can kind of sleep well at night knowing that, like, all right, I tried to better myself. Um, I think to be a little bit more specific towards football, like, yeah, finding different ways every day to challenge yourself. I think of like a perfect example is like it's just like a 10-yard out. Like, we could all throw that with our eyes closed, right? I could just take 3 steps and throw a 10-yard out all day long. But now I want to put it like on his left shoulder pad. Like, and I think I can hit that. Like, it's challenging for me, but it's something is attainable. And so it's a challenge, and I get to try to hit that every day, and I'll miss it sometimes, and I'll get to be able to push myself in that way. But finding little moments every day, where you can get better, whether it's in the building, whether you're watching tape and you're like, all right, I want to see if I can be a little bit more specific with how I watch this linebacker take his first step, or where his eyes are when there's play action. And there's a million levels to it, right? You could go on forever and ever and ever, and I think that's like kind of the competition of mastery, and trying to be that, next level of yourself.
Yeah, Dan O'Brien, former world champion, gold medalist, three-time world record holder in the decathlon. He always used to tell me that the guy who becomes the champion, who becomes the best, is the guy who can put up with the boredom of training every day.
100%. Right. Great point. Yes.
Yeah, and talk about that. I mean, you talk like you're finding things to overcome that boredom, right? It's
Right.
called a hedonic adaptation. You get to a point where you're good enough, and you're like, okay, well, what now? Well, how about if I hit the number 6 instead of the 8, right? How about if I put it in the hole? Talk about that as a player, and then talk about it in the film room, especially because so much
Yeah.
of what people do is boredom and tedium to get the sale or to get to the next thing. How do you find it on the football field?
Yeah. That's still a challenge I'm working through every day and Mark Brunell's my quarterback coach, and
Yep.
he's played forever, and he'll just keep reminding me, like, dude, don't get bored. Like, and I will get bored, certainly during like the spring, and when it's like, there's not as much of a uh, pressure on competition. Like, it's not so much performance based. It's just we're just trying to like get plays in. And I'm like, dude, I'm tired of taking the check down. I'm tired of throwing the Omaha. Like, I want to push this thing down the field and see if I can tear him
Yes.
up. And it's okay, all right. No, first of all, recognize that you're having that thought and go, all right, like, come back to what matters. Just do your job and the whole thing. And then again, dude, it's still a challenge. It's something I'm working through, and still trying to make sure I get better at. It helps when I have coaches who know that that's my kind of thing that I have a hard time with. Puts me back on the right track. But yeah, in the film room as well, it's hard to sit there in a dark room, in a cold, dark room, and watch tape,
Without
and see different.
nodding off.
Yeah, exactly. It's hard. But I think, when I think about it, when I'm able to think about like why I'm doing it, I want to win a Super Bowl, I want to be a Hall of Famer, I want to win MVP. But then more greater than that, I want to win for my teammates and my coaches. And like, when you can create something bigger than yourself that you're driving yourself with, that becomes pretty powerful. And the stuff internally that you drive yourself with, as far as like proving the naysayers wrong or all that stuff is, that's a hot flame, but it'll burn out eventually. And you want to be able to have that internal drive. That's, I want to win this for my coaches or for my teammates, and I want to be a part of something greater than myself.
That is amazing, and it's a big piece of when I give my talks to companies, to corporations, and I go and talk about it. It's the ability to find something bigger than self, to find that connection, which is so important. There's a term called entrainment when people get together and they start acting in sync. Right? Teams have it, and we were blessed to play on teams because
Right.
good teams have it, and great teams makes that feeling so unique. Right? And it's such a need for human
Right.
perspective for the way that we live, and it makes your life so much richer to do it for team. So I absolutely love that, and finding a way to do it for team, that mindset is key. So
Right.
so that's now here you are at this stage of your career where you're like, okay, I'm pretty good, like I'm pretty good. You're finding a way. Let's go back to when you get drafted in the
Yeah.
NFL, right? Because I remember that kid coming out of college.
Yeah.
Right, I remember what he was like, and draft day, and being the number 1 overall draft pick. What was that like for you?
Yeah, it was a whirlwind. It really was. I mean, the whole draft process was really um, fast. I mean, it just all happened fast. I felt like I was at Cal as a junior, and I wasn't like, I'm leaving yet. Like, I didn't know. I was entering my junior year, going, I'm playing my senior year too. And about halfway through that junior year, I think we were 5-0 and I was playing pretty well. And, the mock drafts are saying I'm, a top 10 pick. And I'm like, well, shit, I think I might have to go. And sure enough, the season ends and I come back in and the coaches are like, dude, you're not coming back. And I'm like, really? Like, they're like, dude, you have to go. And so I'm like, all right, if they're pushing me that way, then, I'm sure they would have liked another year with me, but they were being, good coaches and good mentors to me saying, dude, you have to leave. So, I did leave. And that first year, yeah, it was a whirlwind, man. Getting drafted and into LA, I was, the first pick and the whole thing. Like, I don't think there had been a quarterback in LA and 30 years or something. Certainly post social media, there wasn't. So dealing with, all of that external pressure, but then also, yeah, just trying to learn how to be an NFL quarterback and how to like take a snap under center. I mean, stuff so simple as that, how to break the huddle, how to call
Right.
a play. Stuff that simple was a challenge. And you learn how quickly the stuff you don't know and how far, you have to go. And thankfully I had a really good veteran guy in front of me, Case Keenum, who
Yeah. Case is awesome.
was I'm very thankful that Coach Fisher had told me, hey, Case is going to be the starter. You just learn, and I was able to, kind of really just take my time and learn. And by halfway through the season, they were kind of forced to put me in there. But it allowed me to kind of like take a breath and like be like, all right, I'm just going to soak some stuff up here for about half the year. And it helped me a ton. And Case was a great mentor and a great teacher. And I learned a ton.
Yeah, Case is awesome. Another guy I took on a pig hunt. We went down to Texas with him. Like he was great. So for the Bears fans that don't know, Case was the all-time leading passer in the nation, University of Houston, played the air raid system himself. And so
Yep.
talk about that, the difference between the air raid system and then getting the NFL. You and I talked about this when you were at Cal. And I remember talking about you're going to have to learn about reading coverages and defensive fronts. And like all these things are going to come into play later on. Talk about how big of a change that is. Because it's really, it's like going from paddling a surfboard to trying to, run the Love Boat when you get to an NFL offense.
I think on the good offenses now, there's a fine like little middle ground of air raid and probably what you experienced in like a pro style offense in like late 90s times, early 2000s even. Like I think the teams that go too far pro style, they don't have any success. You see those coaches get fired pretty quickly. And then the teams that are typically too far spread, it typically doesn't work either. It's kind of a nice little blend. So I do credit, a lot of what I learned with Coach Franklin and in my ability now to like have a intuitive feel, like to not necessarily be paralyzed by information and just like understand space and understand, grass. We usually say, where's the grass, understanding all that feel and having good feel in the pocket and my footwork and all that. I credit him a ton with that. But then, yes, learning protections and learning play action technique and learning, coverages certainly and defensive fronts, like all that stuff was foreign to me when I was a rookie and having to kind of dive into that and learn why it matters. And, I learned a lot of that with Sean in LA of like what defenses are doing. And this is how we're going to attack it. This is how we're going to manipulate this underneath defender because his rules are X, Y, and Z. So yeah, all that stuff had to be learned and, came with time. I'm still learning it.
For sure. And it keeps changing, right? And the way you said it is perfect because in the 90s, when I was playing, when I got in the NFL, it wasn't nearly as diverse on defense as what they do nowadays. Like nowadays, the wheels have come off. Defenses come at you from everywhere. It's a complete change. You get so many different looks and so many different rules and concepts and like combos that work together. But when I was there, you had more basic rules on defense. And so you had so much information as a quarterback to process that you were supposed to know everything to take you right to your key read to do that. And so there wasn't a lot of intuitive quarterbacking. It was all information.
Right. We always give Brunel a bunch of shit where he'll be like, oh yeah, look at this. I'm like, you never saw that coverage. You never, like you don't know what that is, and just messing around with them. But yeah, dude, it's changed a ton, and I think that's why like now it's even almost going back a little bit towards like it's hard. It is hard to know what they're doing on every snap, so you do have to play with a little bit of feel at times.
Yeah,
That's why you see a guy like Josh Allen like win the MVP. He's very smart, but he's playing very much off schedule a lot and very much has great feel. And it's like, that's a lot of what the game's coming into. And there is still the side of pre-snap stuff, a lot of what, I like to think I'm pretty good at, but there is a lot of feel too. And because you don't know what they're doing to some extent.
Yeah, I remember
They
my
don't know
first
what they're
time.
doing sometimes,
Oh yeah, dude. I remember. So we were running. They're going nickel. It's a preseason game, and they rotate to something, and I'm seeing it and I'm thinking it's cover three, and all of a sudden it turns into be straight man. I'm completely off my read. I miss everything. I should have thrown the corner route for a touchdown, and I get back and I watch it on film later. I'm like, I had no idea what they were doing there. Like none
Right.
what's these guys are so good and so athletic. They can cheat and come from anywhere. So it gets kind of nasty out there on the field, and that's
Yep, it
again
happens.
when they didn't do the stuff that they're doing now. Like zone blitz was just starting to become a thing. Teams didn't do it very much. So yeah, it's crazy. So you get through that, right? That rookie year, it's like, oh, that's a lot, right? And in LA, like in LA, in New York, maybe Philly, those three places, that's a rough place to be a rookie, a high profile rookie too. And then you grow, and then you end up in the Super Bowl. Talk about that experience with the Rams, what that was like for you, kind of just growing into being a Super Bowl quarterback.
Yeah, we were dang good that year and had a really good offense, really good defense, and you kind of catch that magic that like it only happens so ever often where you feel like, oh man, we can like really go all the way, and you get in the playoffs and you win that first one, and then we went on the road and beat New Orleans in the game famously. They didn't call it pass interference, and so you need some things to go your way to get that far, and certainly we had that. I know New England had that as well on their side, and they beat the Chiefs. They had some calls and whatnot, but yeah, so you kind of have to have some things go your way, and then you get there and you're so excited for it. And I remember, I mean, now I look back at like, how much you wish you knew now that you could have
Right?
applied then, but you didn't know it, and none of us did. And if we would have won that game, would I be saying something differently? I don't know, maybe, but because you lose, you're like, man, I wish I would have done this, that, and the other. But you learn a ton. You learn a ton. And I remember I definitely didn't take it for granted. I knew how big of a moment it was and how important it was for a lot of people, and the true fact that you may never get back. You want to have multiple chances at it, and I think people see Brady playing in 10 of them. It's just such an anomaly. Like that's never happened before. And so you'd love to get back and play in a second one and a third one, but that's not the reality potentially. And so you do take it very seriously and know this is maybe your only shot at it. And I remember coming in with that mindset, like this might be my only shot to win it, go do it. And unfortunately we came up short, didn't get it done, but you learn a ton.
Yeah, boy, you're not kidding. Everybody in the league is shooting for that one game. Like everybody is going at it. And you think about competition in life is tough, right? Guys with sales jobs are working to try to get the sale and they're working against other companies. But now you get, to that next level and the next level. And you are at the pinnacle of it in the NFL where the best of the best of the best are now all competing for that one game. So
Right.
agree. It's like it is tough to get back to. But you got something rolling in Detroit right now,
Oh
which
yeah.
I love. Like, you guys have it going on, and I'm such a huge fan. I get to do the post game on Monday nights here in the Bay Area. It's like always Jared Goff hour when I get on there because I'm always talking about what you're doing, and I'm like always following my boy out there playing. But talk about what it's like now, because obviously with the Rams, you get traded. That had to be disappointing.
Yep.
I mean, coming off that, you're like, whoa. And anytime, even though you go to the Super Bowl, you did all those great things. You're like, oh, I wasn't enough, right? That's kind of the feeling that you get. No matter what level you're at, everybody still gets that same feeling. And so talk about going from that into being with the Lions and what you guys have going.
Yeah, dude, that was hard. It really was. It was a low point of my career and of life where you're trying to pick up the pieces to some extent. And I think when you're in it, you don't really realize how, at least I didn't realize, um, how hard it was on me until you're
Yeah.
out of it and able to look back and be like, man, that really affected me and took a toll on me mentally and affected how I played and how I thought and how I acted and the whole thing. And so you don't really realize that until you're out of it. But yeah, dude, it was hard. It really was. And getting traded to a team that wasn't necessarily ready to win yet and kind of having to go through those bumps and bruises and simultaneously looking over and seeing my old team go win the Super Bowl. And that really, stings. Part of you is happy for your guys and all your teammates that you had, but then so probably a bigger part of you that's, struggling to swallow it and understand, that's how it just happened, and that you were trying to chase that with them for 4 years. You leave for a year and they do it, and you're like, fuck, like
Yeah.
I want, that was where I was, and you have all those feelings, and I think now being in a place where you have a group around you that loves you and if you feel good and you're chasing that same thing, and I think you have to really look inward and know that everyone runs a different race, and this has been my race and my career, and it's never a straight line. It typically isn't. And I've been able to overcome some things and come out on the other side doing some good stuff and still on my way up and trying to achieve that ultimate goal. But yeah, it's a bumpy journey, but those are always the best. And trying not to compare yourself to other people or other players or all that stuff is hard, but it's part of the journey.
That's one of those things that I always think back. Like, there's been a ton of stuff in my life, right? I'm born with severe lung disease, grew up with cystic fibrosis, use sports to overcome that, right? So I had to grow through that. And like when you're going through it, you're like, this is miserable. And like you said, you don't even realize how much more of a toll it's taking on you at the time.
Right.
But then it's the greatest gift in the world for you. Yeah. Because now when you come off the far side of it, all of a sudden you can savor what you have and you can recognize, right, wow, I was able to work through that. And look how small I felt in that moment.
Right.
Like, look how defeated I felt in that moment. But then, God puts these challenges in your life, or karma, or whatever you believe, right? The universe puts it there so that you can like grow to become even better. Like, they're tests, right, that are made to make you better. Right. How did you get better from that?
Yeah, you said it right there. It's the greatest thing that ever happened to me. In the middle of it, it's horrible, and you don't really realize how bad it is. I think I was pretty optimistic during it, but looking back, it was pretty tough. But yeah, it's the greatest thing that ever happened to me was being kind of sent down to the bottom and seeing what that looks like, seeing what people around you do, seeing who your true friends are, seeing those people fall off, that aren't your true friends. And then, as I've been able to kind of revive my career in a lot of ways, seeing some of those people try to come back and knowing like, oh no, like you're not really my friend. You're just here when things are good. And, yeah, so all that, but yeah, how did I do it? I mean, every day just tried to keep my head down and get better. I did a lot of mental work, a lot of the stuff that you're talking about. I did a lot of that with sports or performance coach, I guess you'd call him, Michael Gervais, who I work with, and
yep,
been working with him for years, and he helped me through a lot of it. And then I think just being optimistic and learning how to have fun again in the sport and learning how to enjoy it again, and not allowing it to steal my joy or steal an identity piece of me, to be able to kind of go back in and just be me and have fun and really play this sport again. And it's been fun, man. I don't know if I'm answering your question at all, but it's how did I do it? Just put my head down and go to work. There's a famous quote from, I believe, Marcus Aurelius, or at least it was written by Ryan Holiday in the book. Gosh, I'm blank on the book, but this is kind of the title of the book.
The obstacle is the way.
Yes, exactly. The obstacle is the way.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
So that book, I read that. Got a great recommendation to read that when I was kind of in the middle of this whole thing. And the only way, what does he say? The only way is through, essentially.
Yeah.
Like I'm butchering it a little bit, but the only
that's 100% it. The concept is that, we try to avoid things and we hide from them and everything else, but sometimes the obstacle becomes the way, right? You have to get through that. And what it does is it strengthens you and it makes you better. It makes you smarter. It makes you stronger. Right. It gives you all those things that you lacked going in, and you recognize those things in yourself on the far side.
Right. No doubt. And it's been the greatest gift ever to learn that and to be like, all right, you can't there ain't no fixing this situation. It's just go into it and dig in and go through it. The only way is through, and people want to go around, you want to go under, you want the easy way, you want the through. No, it's the only way is through, and you come out the other side stronger and greater. And I've been able to come out the other side and be able to look back on that as the greatest thing that ever happened in my career, and being able to learn from it and grow from it, and be in a place now where I'm pretty happy and doing pretty well.
Yeah, for sure, you're doing pretty well, man. Your team's doing great. Your city loves you. That's hard to beat, and you're about to be a father.
That's right.
Pretty big. That's big time right there.
Very soon. And that'll be another perspective changer, I'm sure, where I'll be able to take a step back and realize that football isn't the only thing in the world,
It's amazing how quickly you recognize what the most important thing in the world is. As soon as they're born, and it's a chemical change within you. You think football really matters. Don't get me wrong. Your job, your team, everything, that all matters. There's a chemical bond there too. But once you have that little one in your hands and you can smell them and you can see world changes 100%, which is awesome.
Right. I can't wait.
Yeah. What lessons did you learn at Cal that helped you through your pro career now?
Great question. Yeah. The 1-11 year was if you can battle through that and remain a starter and keep the team, with you and behind you. And that's as low as it gets, really, other than 0-12, 1-11 is as bad as it gets. And being able to push through that and see that okay, there is a path to 8-5 in 2 years. And it's not rocket science. It's not like we did something. There was no secret sauce in those 2 years, and now 8-5 is a relatively moderate goal. But for us at the time, like that was a big stepping stone and winning that bowl game. And um, but yeah, there was a clear path. It was just work and continue to work and do more and talk and communicate and get on the same page and work and find answers and solutions. And there are no problems. There's only solutions and just continue to work and work and work. And that was all we did. It wasn't like we tried any magic tricks. So it showed me that, when things are bad, and again, I've been on some bad situations and bad teams and feeling like, the world's falling around you, and it's
Yeah.
like, all right, perfect, great. This is when the time to kind of like, all right, look around, know it's hard, know it's, kind of filling up around you and push forward.
What can I do right now? I can take the next step, right? I can
That's
do
right.
the
That's
next
right.
thing, and that's all I can do to control what I've got going on. That is fantastic advice to anybody. As you get ready for games, as you get ready during the week, what do you do to prepare for a game? Like once you get into the work week of football,
Oh boy. I mean,
do
do you
you
want me to
have
just,
routines? Do you have things like that? Is there a mantra that you use? What kind of things in terms of mindset?
um, for like performance stuff, I do a lot of imagery. I do a lot of visualization. That typically happens later in the week.
Mhm.
Um, I do a lot of, like, even at this point in my career, I'll do a lot of like calling the play into my phone and then playing it back to myself. Like recording like
Yeah,
certain, like every week there's like 4 or 5 play calls that are like, shit, that one's kind of hard or what,
yeah,
and
for sure.
I'll work on them, and I'll record them. It takes me 2 minutes to record these plays, and I'll play them on the way home when I'm driving home and be able to just hear them. And little things like that, just finding an edge in any way you can. And um, yeah, I think I do meditation stuff. I do um, weekly calls with Mike Gervais. Maybe not weekly, maybe every couple weeks, but yeah, I'm doing a ton of stuff mindset wise.
That is awesome. Yeah, I think we were blessed in the fact that we grew up in sports. And in
Right.
sports, the work that we do, we call it practice,
Right.
right? Whether it's visualizations,
Right.
whether it's meditation, whether it's actual practice with the team, watching film, we call it practice. People in the real world get into it and they think that everything that they're doing is like for the money. It's to seal the
Right.
contract or whatever. And so they don't think of it as practice. But no matter what you're doing, all the work that you put in is practice until that big moment, right?
Right. I saw a quote, speaking of that recently, where it was, the classic, like, do what you love, you'll never work a day in your life. Sure. But it was like, if you can just frame it as you're not working, you're doing something you like. Now, a lot of people don't like their job. I get that. But if you can create it in a way where it's you're just having fun doing something you love, you immediately have an insane advantage over everyone else
Yeah.
that is viewing it as work. If you just view it as like, no, I just like doing this. Like, let's just work on this project because this is fun. And even if it's not, you can trick your brain into doing it. Like, I just like doing this Excel spreadsheet. This is fun to figure this out. Immediate advantage over everyone else, right? Like, it's not work anymore. It's just play.
100%. Yeah, so it changes your nervous system, right? That's the big premise. As you know, in my book, it changes the way that your nervous system approaches something. When your nervous
Right.
system views it as a threat, all of a sudden it goes ooh, and it shuts down. It
Yeah,
protects you,
nothing
and you
wants to.
you
Yeah,
can't think outside the box, right? Quarterbacks who feel threatened, you can see it. I call it panic passing. All of a sudden they go ooh, and it shuts down, and it's fast, and it comes out, and it's not accurate.
yeah,
I mean, there's a classic one from the Florida State Oregon Rose Bowl, which I won't put it out there, but like that's a classic panic pass. You throw the ball over your shoulder trying to get rid of it. Those kind of things, like you can just see it in a quarterback. You can see it in guys when they're doing that.
right,
And that's called top down thinking, right? You're focused down here, you're so tight in, but then you have that bottom up thinking where you're creative, you're out there and you're just feeling it. And this is where flow happens.
right, right.
Yeah, it's just amazing. And that gratitude, the ability to have it because you love it, to do it that way, is essential for anything that you do. Talk about your
Right.
goals coming up here with Detroit now. What are you going to do next? What is the team going to do next? How do you as a leader make that happen?
Yeah, the goal is always to win a Super Bowl, right? Like that's the always the goal, and I think we're in a place now where we can say that with our chest out and not feel like we need to be coy about it. Like we want to win a Super Bowl, and I think a lot of teams, you've been on teams where it's like, yeah, we want to win a Super Bowl, but like really just want to win, you just want to make the playoffs.
I
Like
just want to
you really just
survive.
want to win your division.
Yeah.
You just want to win 10 games, and
Yeah.
I've been on those teams too, but now we can say it, pretty confidently. Like, no, we want to win a Super Bowl. We want to win a Super Bowl, and we want to win it now. And we have the team to do it. We have the coaches to do it. Everything's in place. You just got to go execute and find ways to win games, and then ultimately find ways to win games in the playoffs. And yeah, it's exciting. We're excited for it. I'm excited for it, and get to go back to work pretty soon here and put my head down. And I try to remind myself how lucky I am to do this. It doesn't last forever, and to be able to say, I get to play quarterback for a team chasing a Super Bowl, like how much better does it get than that? And it's so much fun for me to do that and show up every day to work and be able to chase that together.
Yeah, every kid in America wants to say that someday, right? I get to play for a team that's chasing a Super Bowl or a pennant or whatever. That's the
Right.
dream growing up. When I was 8 years old, I remember telling my dad I was going to go be a professional baseball player or a professional fisherman. Like those are the two things. And I ended up going on to play professional football and hosting my own fishing show and hunting show.
Yeah.
So it
There
was
you go.
pretty
You did
cool.
well.
I didn't
Yeah.
hate it. It was good. How has your leadership style changed over the years?
It's changed a ton. I think I've learned more. I've learned as much of about anything has been leadership with the Lions since I've been traded. Seeing Dan do it is really special. Like from a first hand standpoint, seeing him lead, and I like to think I've got a pretty high emotional intelligence, but like seeing him do it, it's like holy smokes. Like he'll say some things in certain moments where you're just like, that's just the perfect thing to say, and I don't know how he thought about that, but he nails it every time. And he knows when to pull a guy aside, and he knows when to push on a guy. He knows when to lean on him. He knows when to call him out in the meeting and then have a private meeting with him. He's just so good at it. So seeing him do that has taught me a ton. I think meeting guys where they are is been the biggest thing I've learned is, you can't lead everyone the same way. It isn't like, when you're young, you see Tom Brady yell at people, you see Peyton yell at people. You're like, okay, I need to yell at people. Like that's how it's done. It's no, there's a million ways to do it, and finding your own way to do it. And I think a lot of guys respond well to different things, and learning, what they respond well to, one, and then learning what is a successful day for them or a successful rep for them. For some of these young guys, it's just like lining up right. If you can lead them in a way that gets them to line up right, like that's a win. Whereas for myself and St. Brown, like it's on level 401, 501, 601 of like what is a win for him and I in a rep. And so you lead guys in different ways. You have to meet them where they're at and try to get them to enhance their abilities that would equal success for them and not for everybody else. You have to learn what those things are.
So for young guys coming out, I love that because that's like as you grow and you evolve as a leader, you start to realize you have to be on their level. You have to
Yep.
get to where they are, and if you're not there, you're screaming and yelling doesn't do anything. I was like a yeller, but I was always yelling with people, and I can't think of one time during my career that I yelled at somebody like
Right.
the whole time. It just makes no sense because then you just create this battle and people get pissed off and nobody likes each other, and that's just disharmony ensues. But for young kids coming out, young quarterbacks especially, but young athletes coming out, what advice do you have for them?
Oh man, great question. Have fun, enjoy it. Don't let anyone steal your joy. Like it's hard to have that perspective when you're young, but like playing with I've played, this is my 10th, and I think you would echo this. This is my 10th year in the league. My years in high school with my like best friends are like my favorite football memories. Like I've played in a Super Bowl, I've won an NFC championship. Those things are great, but like the ones that I still talk about with my friends are like those moments in high school and middle school and growing up and doing all the fun stuff. So enjoy it, soak it in. Push yourself too, though. At the same time, like as well as much as you're enjoying it, find out what your goal is, what you want to be. If you want to be play at the next level, there's certainly some sacrifices you're going to have to make, and knowing that not all your friends are going to play college football or college sports, whatever it may be. But that's because they're not putting in the same work as you, or they don't want it as badly as you do, and you have to not go to that party and not go to that vacation and not do that because I got to train or I got to work or I got practice or I got this, that, or the other. I'm working with a private quarterback coach, whatever it may be. Those sacrifices are going to come up, and you have to be willing to do those if it matters to you.
That is absolutely awesome. How much do you get back to Cal? How much do you get around there? How much do you get to interact up at Cal? And how much do they reach out to you? Because that's really, I think, I love to text you every now and then, just kind of keep that Cal quarterback thing going. But how much do they reach out to you, and how much do you get to interact with Cal?
Yeah, a little bit. I haven't been back there in a while, and that's all my fault. I just haven't had time to get back there, and they've invited me a handful of times.
Well, you got a little one on the way too, so that's a big deal.
I know, but I've really tried to make it a point to get back there and be around them in some sort of spring ball capacity or something. And um, I talk with McGraw quite a bit.
Yeah.
He's kind of my guy that's still there. Talk with Wilcox here and there. I'll shoot him a text a couple times during the season when I see what they're doing and I'm fired up about it. I like him a lot. Recently had a great conversation with Ron Rivera, Coach Rivera, and what he's doing there now. And yeah, we talk a lot, and trying to find the right way for me to get involved is always the challenge. But I want to be involved. I'm a Bear for life. I'm a Golden Bear for life, and want to be able to help in any way I can. And have suggested some things, and they've suggested some things. So yeah, it's constant communication, and I'll always be a supporter of theirs, and want to find ways to be more involved. And it's really it's not for their lack of effort. It's for my busy schedule to some extent.
Sure. For God's sakes, you're a starting quarterback in the NFL. There's a lot of stuff going on there for you. But as you know, Cal will always love you. I will always love you, brother. It was great seeing you when you're at Cal. I love watching you play now. I love watching what you're doing now, getting to see you from that 180-pounder coming in to where you're playing now. I'm just so proud of you. I really am.
Thank you.
Because I've been there. I didn't get to see you early in high school, but I got to see you from Cal on, and just the growth, everything else that I've seen in you over the course of the years. It's just, as a former Cal quarterback, right, a guy who worked, talked with you when you were in college and seeing what you're doing now, it's just awesome. So we're all proud of you. We all love you. All of Bear Nation is behind you. So go get a Super Bowl this year and make us proud.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it, and go Bears forever, man. I'll always be a Golden Bear, and I'm glad I'm in this little fraternity with you and get to have some fun like this.
Absolutely. Bear fans, you're welcome. So how much fun could that be, right? Jared Goff coming on with us here today. We're all going to pull for him to get a Super Bowl coming up. But for this episode of Ultimate Insider and Bear Insider, I'm Mike Pawlawski. Thanks for watching, and as always, go Bears.